Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trish Regan Show. I am Trish. I am, again, coming to you right straight from Ireland today. I got the Irish Sea behind me here in the southeastern part of Ireland. We got a lot to talk about on the American front, shall we say, because Kamala Harris is suddenly being put on defense. We're going to talk just exactly about what that's all about. Plus, Donald Trump weighing in on exactly the moment he thinks Kamala Harris is going to totally implode. We want to get to that. I want to talk about Venezuela. We got a big show. Welcome back to the Trish Regan Show. Please make sure that you subscribe, you share, you like, you comment, all of that. Be careful, because I can see those comments in real time, so be careful what you say. I read them all. Anyway, I want to get straight to the news of the day, which first off is this tremendous press conference that Donald Trump just did. Now, a lot of people are picking it apart, of course, as the lefties would, but here's what I'm going to say. You know what? The guy did the press conference. That counts for something, does it not? I mean, we've got Kamala Harris, who will only stick to the script when she goes off. We get a little bit of word salad, this, that, and the other, and a few other kind of, well, we'll get to these in a moment, rather lefty communist style sounding mementos. But Donald Trump, he himself is out there doing a press conference for over an hour and taking all questions. I think that's impressive. Anyway, he weighed in on just exactly when he thinks Kamala is going to implode, because you know what? Nobody really knows who she is, and there's not a lot of time to find out. Watch.
Well, she's a woman. She represents certain groups of people, but I will say this. When people find out about her, I think she'll be much less. And I see it right now. I see her going way down to the polls now. Now that people are finding out that she destroyed San Francisco, she destroyed the state of California along with Governor Gavin Newsom. He's been a terrible governor, terrible. But they did it together. And she was early. I mean, she was the first of the prosecutors, really. Now you see Philadelphia, you see Los Angeles, you see New York, you see various people that are very bad. But she was the first of the bad prosecutors. She was early. Oh, it's going to end. The honeymoon period's going to end. Look, she's got a little period. She's got a convention coming up. It's about policy. It's not about her. I think she's incompetent because I've watched her. She destroyed California. She destroyed San Francisco. Everything she's touched has turned to bad things. I'm not going to use foul language, but everything she's touched has turned bad. She's incompetent. The reason she's not doing what I do, and she's not doing what she should be doing, she won't even do interviews with friendly people because she can't do better than Biden. Now, he had a reason for not doing well, and he was never, 25 years ago, the sharpest or brightest bulb in the ceiling. That I can tell you, okay? He wasn't. But he could do interviews at least. Not lately, he couldn't, perhaps. But she should be doing interviews. She doesn't want to do interviews. And the reason she doesn't is, number one, her policies are so bad. Just to answer your question, I think that it's not going to change because it's really ultimately not about her as much as about her policies. She wants open borders. She wants to defund the police. She wants to defund the police. She wants to take away your guns. Anybody that thinks they're not going to come after your guns, when I was president, I totally protected the guns. And I think it's very important. And I know I take some heat sometimes for it, but you have to have safety. You have to have, when the bad guy walks in with a gun, you got to have some way of protecting yourself. And boy, you would see crime go up at levels that you've never seen. When people say on this side of the house, this house has guns, we will use the guns.
Oh, wow.
They say, let's pass. We'll go someplace else. You have to have them.
So, he's covering a lot of ground there, and we thank both C-SPAN and Breitbart for that clip that I just brought you. But what is fascinating to me is really what he said about Kamala, because to me, that is precisely her weakness. In other words, this is a woman who doesn't have a lot of experience on the policy front. And I think in this kind of an election, it's going to come back to haunt you. It's going to come back to haunt you because people are dealing with a 30% increase in their grocery bills, for goodness sakes. Everybody's paying more for gas. Everybody's paying more for food. Everybody's paying more for rent. And there's no indication that that's going to change anytime soon. I mean, let's face it, everything you see indicates that inflation is going to get worse before it's going to get better. I have more to play for you on Trump and Kamala, but first, a word from one of our sponsors. Hey everyone, I'm Trish Regan, and so happy to be coming to you live all week long from the stunning island of Ireland. Just incredible. You know, when I was a little kid and we'd visit here, my mom would say, if you're lucky enough, you might actually get a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, because that's where the leprechauns leave it. So we looked, we didn't find any, but I consider it probably having been good advice, because as I got older, I learned that gold is pretty valuable. It's valuable in terms of diversification. I encourage you to take a look at it, and when you do, call our friends, our wonderful sponsors over at American Hartford Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com, Trish Loves Gold, and wow, it's windy here. You can text 65532, my name, Trish, to 65532 for your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver, ladies and gentlemen. Just a terrific offer. So that was right outside, believe it or not, on a windier day than today. But I am again here in Ireland in the southeast for a family reunion this week in a town nearby, little place where they still speak Irish, you guys. They still speak Irish. It's their first language, called An Ring, or ring. That's the English translation. Anyway, that's been tremendous. And over the course of the few days, you're probably going to see a few beauty shots of Ireland from me on my Instagram account. So go follow me there. But anyway, we do thank our gold sponsors, American Hartford Gold, because this is the reality of where we are right now. Kamala Harris is about as an extreme leftist as I have ever seen in politics. I mean, outside of Bernie Sanders. But if you look at her track record in terms of voting, she's more left than Bernie. I mean, so I'm kind of looking at this saying, I don't think this is a good scenario, if you would, for our economy. We don't want a redistribution of wealth. We don't want to tax everyone to death. We don't want to bog down all new business owners with tons of bureaucracy and red tape. And yet this is exactly the kind of mentality that Kamala comes with. In fact, she kind of let loose on this. I think this was inadvertent. I don't think she intended, well, maybe she did intend it, because everything's scripted these days and on a prompter. Unlike this show, by the way. Reminder, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Here's Kamala Harris speaking in Detroit, and she just lets it right out. Watch.
We believe in the collective. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us, trying to separate us, trying to pull us apart. That's not where the strength lies.
Excuse me? Anyway, you heard the word collective, did you not? Yeah, that's an interesting choice of words, shall we say. You know, the collective, or a collective. That's kind of straight out of the socialist economic playbook, thank you very much. But she said it. Okay, so she said it. You got to watch her. You got to watch for all of these things right now, because I think we're in a very fragile spot economically. We're in a fragile spot in terms of our national security, in terms of our border, and yet she represents a whole bunch of things that would take us in a really negative direction. And that's a big concern, a huge concern, obviously, of mine. But Kamala Harris is very much a socialist. And now the good news is her campaign's being put on defense. They're running around trying to play defense because they got themselves a lemon, shall we say, a lemon, courtesy of Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota. My gosh, this guy out there bragging about his military career, which he somehow decided to inflate along the way.
Hello, everyone. I'm Congressman Tim Walz. It's a real honor to be able to pay tribute to the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division and to your families and friends as you prepare to deploy in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. As a 24-year veteran of the National Guard and the Red Bull Division and a retired Command Sergeant Major, I'm especially proud of you. You are continuing a long and great tradition of service by the citizen soldiers of the 34th, a tradition symbolized by the fact that
I'm going to stop it for a second. Did you hear what he said? Let's go back.
Long and great tradition of
Whoops, right here.
Retired Command Sergeant Major, I'm especially proud of you.
Okay, so that's not actually true. That's what's kind of interesting here. When I said he was inflating, I really and truly was not kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get the real story, okay? Let's talk about what he really was. I mean, how do you say this for 24 years in politics and nobody figures it out until now? Anyway, it turns out he did not retire as a command sergeant major, E9, classification E9, despite claiming, as you just saw, and by the way, they got more tape. C-SPAN's got tons of it. There's tons of tape of this guy. He's been going around saying I was a command sergeant major. He never retired as that because apparently he didn't complete all the requirements to secure that higher rank. So again, they're trying to spin something out of nothing, trying to, we got this wholesome guy who's actually a veteran, when he's a guy who's inflating his veteran status. And not only is he inflating his position, oh, wow. He's actually saying that he was carrying weapons of war in war. He never, ever was deployed to war or in any kind of combat zone throughout his 24-year career. In fact, when there was an opportunity to go to Iraq with the National Guard, and J.D. Vance has pointed this out, he basically said, sorry, too busy with Congress. So in 24 years, no, he was never deployed. And this is coming back to haunt the campaign, maybe catching them just a tad off guard. Here we go. This is in the Wall Street Journal, ladies and gentlemen, today. And I quote, after 24 years in the Guard, Walz was the command sergeant major, the highest ranking enlisted soldier of an artillery battalion. He was reduced in rank after retiring, leaving him as a master sergeant. So that was the title he had. I mean, not that we need to be specific, right? I mean, hey, when you're as left as Kamala, there's no need to be specific on anything. He was reduced in ranks months after retiring, leaving him as a master sergeant. Minnesota National Guard officials have said that Walz retired before completing coursework at the U.S. Army Sergeants Major Academy, along with other requirements associated with his promotion. So he got the promotion, and he was supposed to do a set number of things, and he just waltzed out of there. Waltzing away. The campaign declined to comment on why Walz's official biography misstated his retirement rank. I mean, it's like if I were to say I was summa cum laude instead of cum laude, okay? I wish I was, had it not been for that one science class. I would have been, okay? I would have been. But you know what? The science class, that bumped me down. So it is what it is. But we have to be truthful. We can't just inflate for the sake of inflating. This is what they're doing. It's indicative of what's happening in politics. It happens in markets. It's one of the reasons I started 76 Research. A big plug here for 76research.com. Go over there. We get lots of portfolios for you to choose from. No, not lots, just three, plus a 76 report. We have a growth portfolio, that's American Resilience. We have a basic income builder portfolio, that's the income builder portfolio. And we also have an inflation protection portfolio. And I can't say enough good stuff about this. 10 to 15 stocks, all of them are beating the S&P. And that's the idea here. Because you know what? I have a feeling you're not getting the right information, whether it be politically speaking, whether it be economically speaking, whether it be in terms of your markets and investing. And for those of you who say, I can't invest, Trish, there's no extra money, I'm getting whacked with these grocery bills. I get it, okay? But try, all right? That's my advice to you. Try. If you're going to spend $5 a day on incidentals, like, a latte, don't take that $5 and put it in the markets and actually start investing and plan for your future. I mean, listen, any which way you slice it, over a long enough time period, generally you could count on about 10 years, you're going to way outperform anything that you could otherwise do. So the real way to actually combat inflation, besides having a diversified portfolio, which I believe includes gold, look, you got to look at something like investing in actual stocks that will make you money in the long run. So go and get those 10 to 15 names each at 76research.com, or if you just want to dip your toe and go get the 76 report, 76report.com or 76research.com. Listen, I am telling you, this is a very weird moment in time. Donald Trump weighing in on this Biden coup, and I don't know what we call it other than a coup, right? They took the guy out. They took him out right in front of our very eyes. And it's amazing considering American voters, they went to the polls and voted for the guy. And they were told it was misinformation if we, like yours truly, were to talk about how he was declining. Biden was declining in terms of his mental acuity. They were fighting that stuff like it was tooth and nail. And then until they decided, and that was a very coordinated effort with Jake Tapper's help over at CNN, they decided they were going to take down Biden. They got Well, they got NBC involved, they got the New Yorker involved, they got the New York Times involved, and sure enough, they did it. Donald Trump recognizes this. I mean, hey, Biden was no great shakes, but it's a little bizarre what just went down. He talks about this, exactly how, ladies and gentlemen, the presidency was stolen from Joe Biden. I want you to hear it.
The presidency was taken away from Joe Biden, and I'm no Biden fan, but I'll tell you what, from a constitutional standpoint, from any standpoint you look at, they took the presidency away. And people were saying he lost after the debate. He couldn't win. Well, I don't know that that's true necessarily, but whether he could win or he couldn't win, he had the right to run. And they took it away. They said they're going to use the 25th Amendment. They're going to hit you hard. Either we could do it the nice. I know exactly, because I know a lot of people on the other side, believe it or not. And they said, we'll do it the nice way or we'll do it the hard way. And he said, all right. So that, I mean, they've really taken, what they've done is pretty incredible.
He's right. I mean, it is really and truly incredible. I just sort of can't believe that it all went down like that. But sure enough, amazing what you can do when you get the media in your back pocket, right? And that's exactly what they had. So now, here we are. We're not a lot of time between now and November, right? This is coming fast. And they're hoping that maybe people will just overlook things like Kamala's policy. Like, does she even have to have any? Go to her website. This is amazing. Take a look. This is the website. I've been through the website like 50 times. I keep looking for anything that would actually talk about this woman's policy, and there's nothing there. So, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of 2020 kind of all over again, when nobody wanted to talk policy when it came to Joe Biden. All they wanted to do was put him in the basement, have him read a teleprompter, and hope for the best. And they knew with the media on their side, they could get that, right? They could get a win. They could eke out a win if they could just sort of keep him quiet enough and not talk about the real things that mattered. And Trump's like, oh, okay, I want to talk about trade. I want to talk about trade tariffs. I want to talk about the Fed. I want to get rid of Jerome Powell. And everybody's like, who's Jerome Powell? Like, nobody wants to talk about, in the media, actual policy. And I know this from experience. I mean, look, I've worked at enough media organizations to know, first of all, as a financial reporter, I was the only one who got jazzed, like on Fed Day. Nobody actually, except at the financial networks, nobody in mainstream media actually cared about the Fed or cared about trade or tariffs or any of the economic policies that actually really will dictate our future. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to do it. They just wanted to talk about palace intrigue all the time. And so this is what the Harris campaign is serving up. They're not serving up anything of substance whatsoever. So what is this campaign? It's 2020 in my estimation all over again, and that's why it's really, really important we hold them accountable. But some people, some lefties out there are getting really scared. They're terrified. They're terrified, ladies and gentlemen, this could be another repeat of 2016. They're worried that the media is giving Donald Trump a pass. Excuse me? Excuse me, he's the one who went out and did the press conference. I don't see Kamala Harris doing any such thing, right? So here's this MSNBC guy who's on late at night going on and on about, this is not fair, this is bad, it's like 2016 all over again, and only people are paying attention to Trump. Okay, watch.
The networks could have simply put on the side of the screen, Kamala Harris is a graduate of Howard University and University of California Hastings College of Law. Of course, Donald Trump proved once again today that he is not smart enough to do a news conference by saying something that was provably false in every response he gave to every single...
Okay, one has to assume he's just mad here because Donald Trump was insulting the intelligence of Kamala Harris. And apparently that's no-go territory. And if you dare to do that, you're supposed to put something up about how she went to Howard University. Okay, let's go, Larry.
Question. Most of those were knowing lies by Donald Trump. But many of the falsehoods Donald Trump spread today in his responses came from that.
By the way, can you tell he's reading a prompter? I can tell he's reading a prompter. You see how he stumbled there? He had to script that whole thing out. Let's keep listening if you can bear it.
Vast well of stupidity that takes up most of his brain. The stupidest person
He has to script this.
who has ever won a nomination for president stood there in front of those reporters and said his opponent isn't smart enough to do what he was failing at right in front of those reporters. And to make a bad news coverage situation worse, none of the networks, none of them, carried Kamala Harris's speech live after the Trump appearance. None of them. This network brought you the last few minutes of Kamala Harris's speech live, but was actually doing Olympics coverage when the speech began.
Well, I'm sorry. Kamala Harris, you're too frickin' stupid to actually broadcast when there isn't a big Olympic moment. I mean, again, this is back on our team, but they want to hide it. Remember, just like the basement strategy of 2020.
Kept doing it. And so, as a first order of business in this hour tonight, we will correct that mistake by presenting to you in full and unedited, as if live, everything
Lucky you.
that Kamala Harris said today in her speech in Michigan, which all of the networks knew was coming. They knew what time it was coming. They knew how to cover it live, and they didn't. After giving Donald Trump more than an hour of live coverage on all of their networks. It's 2016 all over again. The same mistakes are being made. I have never seen an industry slower at learning from its own stupid mistakes than the American news business. And you cannot expect...
Wow. So he really thinks it's 2016 all over again? I mean, what planet is he on? I'll take it. Listen, because, you know, we know who won in 2016. Thank you very much. I think the real danger, though, here is that it's not 2016. It's 2020. And the media is locked and loaded, ready to pump her up as much as they possibly can. Look, the media did not love Hillary Clinton. The Clintons had a history, if you would, with the media. And there were a lot of sort of people that weren't necessarily in her corner, out to help her. But that doesn't exist with Kamala. She hasn't had enough experience with the media, first of all, and she's got Obama's team running the show. I mean, the whole darn team came over from Obama. David Plouffe, who ran the Obama campaign. Now, guess whose campaign he's running, ladies and gentlemen? Kamala Harris. So you have a very, I'll give him this, good team. I mean, David Plouffe is, you know, he won 2 elections, thank you very much. And you get the likes of David Axelrod and the rest of them. I mean, these are smart people. Whether you like Obama or not, he was elected and he got stuff done and he had these people doing it. And so now they're working for her. I mean, or she's working for them, depending how you think about it. And so I don't think it's 16 at all in any way, shape, or form. This is a crowd that is there to win, which is why they so unceremoniously unseated none other than President Biden, just like that, just like that. But let's think about what's going on, because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake. I mean, this is the future of the United States of America, and the next 4 years are going to be critical. We've been through 4 bad years already. I don't think we need that again. There's a guy over on CNN who used to work on Capitol Hill, who's like a, you know, they have to have a token conservative now and then on CNN, and he had some pretty interesting things to say. I think he hit the nail on the head in terms of what he was saying about what's at stake, because I really do worry that the future of capitalism at this very moment in time is exactly what is at stake. Watch.
Morning show, CNN News Central. And you said, for Donald Trump, disciplined and on message will deliver the day. Undisciplined gets dicey. So was today more deliverance or diciness?
They have to focus on how they're going to frame the election. I think Axe is right. They had a plan to defeat Joe Biden, and the framework was basically strength versus weakness. They executed it every day, and they were winning that framework. Now the...
Interesting, right? They were winning that framework, and that was debilitating for Joe Biden, and Obama and his team knew it. And that's one of the big reasons they went in there and they made the switcheroo.
framework is apparent to any Republican, and that is radical liberals versus common sense conservatives.
Thank you.
They have to prosecute that case in the same ruthless, focused way they were prosecuting strength versus weakness against Biden. It's not exactly happening every day right now. I would challenge Axe on one point about the confidence point. It's pretty confident to stand up and do a press conference. Kamala Harris is not willing to do that right now, is not sitting down to have her record challenged by any journalist. And I think that does show something of a lack of confidence. And if they achieved anything good today, it was to make the point. Trump is who he is, and he will stand and answer questions about his views, and she will not. I think this is part of a plan to try to draw her out, which they have to do.
What was discipline a word you would use to describe it?
Oh,
I think the answer is no, not entirely disciplined, right? Because Donald Trump had a lot to say. He packed a lot in. He didn't go too off the rails, but he definitely was willing to take things in different directions, including even talking about the Federal Reserve, which was really interesting, saying, what the heck are we doing with this Federal Reserve that it doesn't seem to know its you-know-what from its you-know-what. Anyway, another reason why you want to diversify your portfolio, another reason why I encourage you to call our good friends over at American Heart for Gold. You can text my name to 65532 for your chance to get up to $15,000 worth of free silver with American Heart for Gold, or just go to trishlovesgold.com, trishlovesgold.com. Has kind of a nice ring to it, right? Anyway, you can also give him a ring at 1-844-495-1115. Text Trish to 65532. That's probably the easiest way. Just learn some more about it. I mean, diversification really and truly is really critical right about now. And I think that, considering what's at stake, you have to think about how to plan your future. So trishlovesgold.com for your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver. It really is a critical moment. You think about Kamala Harris and her collective
We believe in the collective. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us.
Oh, wow. And yet she's the chief divider. I mean, this reminds me of somebody else. Would that not be Barack Obama, who promised to unite us? You know what? That was probably one of the biggest steps back for America. His tenure in the Oval Office, because he did anything but divide us. Anyway, that we are the collective talk, that's straight out of a socialist economics textbook, which I think her dad was one. He's like this post-Keynesian economist from Stanford. Yeah, she didn't quite have the traditional upbringing in Canada with the academic professors as parents, although she was, I guess, raised in a broken household. Anyway, let's go to Trump on Kamala here, because I think this is kind of an important observation he makes. Kamala is not speaking extemporaneously, just like the CNN guy said. She's very glued to the prompter. She's very glued to the script. This is a highly controlled campaign, and everyone knows it. Donald Trump pointing this out. And then I want to show you what she said, the one and only time thus far in the campaign that she has been off script. Take a listen.
Did you see her the other night? They put a camera in her face. She can't even talk. We just went through 4 years. Let's not go through another thing.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
And the strength of diplomacy. In other words, she kind of gloms onto these one words and then repeats them ad nauseum, sort of over and over and over again. It's some kind of weird nervous tic that she has, but it's discouraging to me because, hey, this woman could be president of the United States, and we have somebody who really isn't articulate enough to talk about anything of substance. So again, we're in this campaign where she's got a website with nothing on it, right? Just donate now. Feel good about yourself. Be part of the Kamala bandwagon. I don't think it's going to be enough. When I look at the new polls out, and we've seen a couple in the last 2 days, I encourage you to explore a little bit more of the YouTube channel, because I actually did this in yesterday's show. We led with this. There were a couple of polls out that showed how she was actually starting to lose ground, really significant ground, with two key demographics. The Jewish population in New York, pretty important, pretty historically Democrat, blue, and yet we're seeing this reversal. And the other group is actually white Americans that are less enthused with her than they were Biden. So I think that's an important thing to watch. I think that as time goes on, more and more you're going to see people come to this realization that we run serious risks. Right? We run serious risks if Kamala Harris were to stay in power, because she's been in power, let's face it, for the last 4 years. We know where we're getting. Do we really want 4 more years of that? I don't think so, but I think it's going to be 4 more years of potentially something far worse, something far more socialist in nature. And look, I have only to look to our southern neighbor, which, by the way, is a huge national security risk right now. I want to show you some pictures that just came into me. Actually, you know who, one of the opposition leaders was tweeting this out. This is a Russian ship in a Venezuelan port. Can you see that, guys? Look at this, Russian ship in a Venezuelan port. Now, Venezuela is like 2.5 hours from the coast of Florida, okay? And we got Russian warships hanging out down there, like that makes any sense at all. That's a contested election if I ever saw one, Banana Republic style, because Nicolas Maduro is hanging on saying, no. You know what, I won this thing. And, well, he's the only one that thinks that. Pretty much the entire world has come out against that scenario and said that actually Maria Machado and her group, Corina Machado, have wanted Eduardo Gonzalez. And that's going to become increasingly a bigger and bigger problem. In fact, some of my sources on the ground saying they think that Venezuela is at risk, very much at risk of some kind of civil war at this moment. And what that means for us, let's just think about this for a second, is one, you've got Russians down there, right, trying to protect Maduro. That's a problem. Chinese and Iranians as well. And you run the risk of a huge exodus, which if we have, and we do have a very porous border, is going to become more and more problematic for us here in the U.S. So it's a reason for us to care and pay attention to that. The other reason is because we don't want to be them, right? You don't want to be a socialist dictatorship. And I do think if Kamala wins, we are very much at risk of that kind of scenario. So this is a critical moment in time for sure. I want to encourage you, you know what, look out for numero uno. Go over to 76 Research, check that out, 76research.com. I created that with all of you in mind, so please check that out. We are still here in Ireland and heading back to the States next week, but I love having you here again. I love being here. What an amazing, amazing place to be broadcasting from in the southeastern part of Ireland. Just incredible. It almost looks like a fake backdrop. I promise you it's not. That is the Irish Sea behind me. And I will see you over the weekend, bits and pieces here, and on Monday. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, all that good stuff. See you soon.